How do you feel this year's conference has gone? What's the trajectory? Because you kind of had a new iteration about, 4 years ago after the pandemic, it kind of started a little bit different.
So we sold out of booths.
Oh, darn, that's a problem.
Yeah, we sold out of booth space earlier than we have in previous years. We also were able to gain more sponsorship and sales, double digit year over year than we did last year. We had more sponsorships wanting to come to the table to be showcased here at the Mexico Conference.
Well, friends, here we are in Guadalajara at the Mexico Conference. What a treat. I get to come home. I got to see my siblings and my mom since I grew up here, and they're still here. But we were here with Doug and Jess from IFPA. And they basically are the team that makes sure that this conference goes and goes well. And there's a whole lot more besides that you do. Talk to us a little bit about what IFPA is doing in Mexico.
I'll start by saying we are just part of a bigger team that makes this go, and it's a tremendous team, so we're really grateful. But it's also fueled by volunteer leadership. So this event, it just would not be possible with all the volunteer leadership and everything that they do, which really is the core of IFPA. Our members are our association, and they are our, what do we say, our collective strength and our collective voice. So, you know, we just take that energy and build on that and make a conference come to life.
Many people, well, in the U.S., but even down here in Mexico, many people have associated IFPA with the one big trade show that happens once a year around October. But when you start pulling on that yarn, there's really just a whole lot more that you guys do. You represent, I mean, it's in the government, it's working within the industry, it's all different aspects of that. So what is that like? I mean,
well, Nate, thanks for having us.
Oh, I'm glad.
So I'm Jessica Keller with IFPA, Vice President of Global Industry Relations. So my focus is really everything outside of US and Canada. And so, you know, to your point, people think of IFPA as this North American, you know, legacy produce marketing association, supporting the produce industry with this global show just in North America. But the truth be told, IFPA is now the largest non-profit member association supporting the entire produce industry throughout the entire supply chain, with boots on the ground IFPA team now globally as well. So, you know, part of my responsibility is overseeing, you know, that team globally. So we have Ruben, who's here in Mexico representing IFPA and putting on this conference. And we also have Valeska in Brazil. We have Yvonne in Chile. We've got Jane in South Africa. We've got Anouk in Europe. We've got Mabel in China. We've got Sarah for East Asia. And we have Belinda for Australia and New Zealand. So when you think about IFPA, we really want you to be thinking about it from a global perspective. And just like we do the global show in North America, whether it's on the East Coast or West Coast, we also have international signature events that are taking place throughout the entire calendar year. So right now is May 2025. We're here in Guadalajara for the Mexico Conference, but it's not just about, you know, Mexico. When you look at the Mexico Conference, you're also seeing a lot of international attendees, and you're seeing company leadership that represents the entire LATAM region. So we also need to make sure that when we're talking about, you know, the Mexico Conference or the Brazil Expo in August or South Africa Conference in July, or Hort Connection happening in Australia here in a couple of weeks, it's not just about those countries, right, or those geographical areas. It's about the global industry and what's happening and who's represented at those events.
So we got the I in IFPA International. So we got that covered. The name of the event signifies perhaps the location, but not necessarily the reach. And we were hearing yesterday in the conferences with all of the upheaval in the trade and all of that, you know, Mexican growers and shippers are looking to other markets, and they need to be able to have those kind of contacts. So it's not just a retail store in Guadalajara or even in Mexico. It is Japan, and it is Europe, and it's all that kind of stuff. How do you feel this year's conference has gone? What's the trajectory? Because you kind of had a new iteration about 4 years ago after the pandemic. It kind of started a little bit different.
So we sold out of booths.
Oh, darn, that's a problem.
We sold out of booth space earlier than we have in previous years. We also we're able to gain more sponsorship and sales, double digit year over year than we did last year. We had more sponsorships wanting to come to the table to be showcased here at the Mexico Conference. We also beat our target for total attendees.
Wow.
We have more retailers here this year than we have had last year. We've got more representation for retail out of Canada, US, and Mexico. And we've got verbal confirmations for additional retailers for 2026. So it's a really exciting time right now with our conference here in Mexico. It just feels like we're kind of on this flywheel of positive momentum.
That's awesome.
And we're already starting to plan for 2026.
That's great.
We've got countries represented this year from Italy, Belgium, Holland, Singapore, Chile, LATAM, obviously US and Canada, but we're reaching areas that we've never reached before in terms of that global attendance. Okay. And to your point about trade flows adjusting with, what's happening right now with geopolitics, one of the interesting things that I've heard from some of our members here in Mexico, some of our really big growers, is that expansion into Asia. Well, the great news about IFPA is that we've got
representation.
We've got a country manager just for China. It's kind of a couple billion people. So
all?
we need a team there, and then we also have a country manager for East Asia. And so really creating those connections and connecting markets is part of our job. I like to think of myself as kind of an international matchmaker, right?
Yeah, there's some great synergy there too. So
yeah, continuing to connect the world, right, as things evolve, and it's not going to just stop. Trade always is ever changing, right? And it's not just going to be for the next 4 years; it's forever, right? And you can see that with new trade agreements being signed, for example, Chile with India, and Brazil with India, and how do we connect those markets?
And for those of you who are consumers out there, perhaps you're not understanding what this means, but when you go to the grocery store and you look at that little sticker, that PLU sticker that says country of origin, perhaps the headline or whatever your source of news is doesn't translate to what you normally would see, but that affects whether it's seasonality or whether it's the tariffs or whether it's the cost of shipping, all that affects, and then it affects what you take home and put on your grocery list or put on your table or what you put in your mouth. So it all matters. It's not just some remote industry out there. So yeah, it's great. What I have asked almost everybody that we've interviewed what their kind of KPIs are. How do you determine if this is a good show? And what I really liked was nobody said, so many dollars in sales, so many customers, but every one of them says it's all about the networking. And at the end of the day, I always say produce is people. If you don't know the people behind the produce, how can you do a long-term deal, long-time relationship, long-time business relationship? So these events really provide that kind of networking that is necessary.
I think that's an excellent point and observation, and I'm glad to hear other people talk about that as their KPI. I think you can see our intention in the design of this conference and some of the other events that we do elsewhere around the world, that we're very deliberate in understanding the importance of networking to our members, right? Produces people. Yeah. We deliberately schedule our events to provide a balance of the doing business together, whether it's through an expo, networking events, getting educational content, and trying to engender a dialogue among our members who are connecting, as Justice said, across international markets. So in this case, Mexico is the hub, but there are people coming from all over the world to hear what's happening here, connect here, and so we want to give them ample opportunity to do so.
And the quality of the speaker, it's like Produce doesn't have a continuing ed requirement, but if they did, this would be it, right?
Thanks, Nate. Well, yeah, I would say, to build on what Doug just mentioned in terms of KPIs, I also would just say quality, taking it back to produce, if it's a produce department. For me, the KPI is the quality of people that we have coming to this event, and everything else kind of trickles down from that, right? Because it attracts more high quality, right? And for me, that's super important, the quality over quantity, right? And it's the same kind of, it's the same motto, in any produce department, right?
So you would say you were not in the business of selling tickets. we're in the business of connecting people, like you said,
Correct.
matchmaking. So a successful event isn't how many tickets got sold. It's that the people that came are actually contributing to the entire supply chain.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's a conversation we have a lot internally. It's not about the number of tickets.
Yeah.
It's about the quality of people, not the quantity.
And the engagement, right? The quality of engagement, I would say.
And okay, so about that, one last thing before we wrap this up, because I know we all have places to go, and I appreciate your time so much. But we had these kind of speed dating sessions the first evening.
Business roundtables.
What an awesome way to do that, because most of the time, most of the shows, I mean, having worked for a grower before, you're running down the aisle, you're trying to chase the guy with the red lanyard or whatever color lanyard it is, and hey, can I get to actually have the discipline and to schedule a time to get your spot and to have your 10 minutes to talk to this guy, and maybe you don't want to talk to everybody, but the ones that you want to talk to are going to be here, and you guys brought that all together, and you kind of make that easy and productive, right? I mean,
it was very well organized, I will say. Big appreciations, honestly, to our interns that are here, that are part of our talent development program from the Panamericana University in Aguascalientes.
Oh, wow.
So we have about 15 college students that are here. They happen to be all female, and they're all rock stars.
Oh,
and
wow.
so they created such an organized system for speed dating and our business roundtables in terms of creating a schedule for all 12 retailers and matching up the growers and ringing the bell and getting everyone to rotate.
That was fun hearing that bell ring.
Yeah, we couldn't have done that without them, but very positive feedback from our retailers as well as growers. And Nate, I just want to mention, one of the benefits of exhibiting at the Mexico Conference is that exclusive experience. Yeah. So unless you're exhibiting, you're not going to get that exclusive opportunity to be part of those business roundtables. So that's one of our incentives.
That's a very good incentive.
And like I mentioned, we're really excited about 26 in terms of the additional retailers that we have verbal commitments coming to Guadalajara.
Well, folks, you heard it. If you wanna talk to the right people, you got a plan now for 2026 in Guadalajara. You won't regret it. It's a great town, great people, great show, great conference, and a great opportunity. So thank you guys so much for your time. It's a privilege to meet you in person, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you so much.